All right, in this video, we're going to look at the document management module. This module allows us to have all documents centralized so we can store them, even integrating them with other sales, purchasing, or project modules that we have in Hulu. We can search and filter, tag, and categorize the documents. We can manage access, who has access to the category or documents, who can view, edit, or delete them. In addition to this, we can set up workflows to approve or review a document through different stages, and afterwards we can also integrate it with external tools. For example, we can integrate it with the electronic signature tool so that we can use Odoo itself to request a document signature. And of course, we can also share a document both with internal and external staff and make comments or have conversations about a document, in addition to making annotations and previewing certain types of documents. All right, let's do an example. Imagine this is my document workspace. Here you can see the workspaces. Workspaces would be like folders. We're used to having files stored in folders. So here, think of workspaces as folders. And these folders can have subfolders. For example, here inside contracts, I have Maria and I have Antonio. And each one can have their own categories and different documents. And besides, I can have other subfolders in there as well. And it could be that, for example, Maria only has access to her own folder, Maria. Or within Maria's folder, I can have contracts. I can have, well, several folders and modify the types of access or permissions for each one if desired. Then we also have categories or tags. We can have groups of tags. For example, in this case, one is called approvals, and within approvals, we have validated or to review. All right, so let's start by creating a workspace. We're going to click on New Workspace, and we're going to create a workspace called Nomi, which we'll create inside. This is why it says Parent Workspace here, inside Contracts. Notice that inside Contracts, I have Maria Antonio, so now I'm going to create one called Noemi. I could define certain preset categories, but for now I'm just going to set access permissions, and I'll specify that it should have permissions. For the user group called Noemi, which I have created, of course, we can create as many user groups as we want, and there we define which users are in each group, or they can be individual users who have access permissions directly. By the way, I'm going to specify that it's Nomi who has access to the folder called Nomi, with her own name, of course. They don't have to be named the same. And just so you know, I can set it so that she only has read access to her own documents. Or she can only write to her own documents, that is, to the documents that she owns, so that she only sees the ones she uploads herself. If we upload them as administrators, she won't see those documents. But anyway, in this case, we're not going to set it up that way. Let her see everything. Imagine I'm an accounting firm and I want to give access to documents, and that they can see both the ones I upload and the ones the user uploads. Nomi will be the name given to this folder, this workspace. And now if we go to workspaces, we can already see Nomi contracts here. Well, so now if I go to documents, I'll have Nomi's here, which right now doesn't have any documents. Now let's log in as the user Nomi and we'll see. She will only be able to see those folders, there are some here, that are accessible to everyone. There are folders, workspaces that I have set so that everyone has access, that are shared by all. For example, some manuals that we want everyone to see. But there are others that maybe only administrative staff or whoever can access, and a specific folder perhaps for our client, in this case, 9000. Let's look at an example. I'm going to put this tab here. This is another user. Here, I am logged in as Nomi, and notice that I only see those workspaces. This is what the administrative staff sees. They have all the folders inside contracts, but Nomi only has her own folder, Nomi. So now, here we can do several things. We can create or upload documents here, and also create workspaces, maybe subfolders, but let's go ahead and upload documents directly. I'm going to upload a document, so I click here to upload. I'm going to select, for example, this one here, ownership certificate. And now if I go to Luz Barrio Noemi, let's refresh here. Here we have the document ownership certificate. Also, since it's a PDF, you can see the thumbnail here. Now, in addition, what we're going to do is, instead of uploading directly, we're going to request that the rental contract be uploaded. And we're going to request it from Nomi. We put it here. We're going to specify an expiration date, set it to 7 days, and here we can add a note if we want, like, we need you to upload your contract. Although, well, even if we don't write it, they'll see it anyway. they'll automatically receive an email notification. Here, where it says request from, we could set our user, okay? In this case, it's Kirian. We could set it if we had different people and we want the recipient of the request to be a specific person. If you want them to see who the request is from, you can set it here. And we're going to request it. So once the request has been created, we'll see here that something is pending to be uploaded. And now, both in Odoo notifications and in the email, the person would receive the request to upload the document, the rental contract. They would click here. For example, let's upload this document here. We already have another PDF uploaded. All right, now let's look at the categories we mentioned earlier. Well, here in settings, we also have the categories, which are these tags. We could say that what is called a label would be a group of tags, and what is called a category would be the individual tags. Let's create a group that isn't here yet by clicking on New. When we create a group, which in this case is called a label, we can choose to assign it to a workspace or not. Here, I'm going to create a group of labels called status. And we can assign it to the Nomi workspace if we want or not, or have it available for everyone. So here in category, which is this series of individual tags, let's create status. We'll make one called pending approval and another called approved. Anyway, if we now go here to categories, within Nomi contracts, we have a label called status with two categories, approved or pending approval. If we go here to documents and I enter the Nomi workspace, you see here is status, approved or pending approval. We can do, for example, we can say, look, this document or any document we've already uploaded, whatever we want, is assigned to a category. In this case, these appear, which are the ones available for Nomi's folder. We're going to select, look, here's the one we just created, right? Status, pending approval. Do you see that here there's an action called approve? I created this one, but if we go here to settings, actions, this is a great feature of the documents module. I'm going to read you some that already work here. We can choose to use them or not. For example, there's send to legal, create a task, sign. Signing is also really useful, right? So that you can validate, request validation. Let's create one of these actions ourselves. These are actions that already come preset here. We can create a new workflow action, as it's called. Let's name it, look, validate document, but we'll call it approve. Since we've called it approval, approve a document. And we're going to specify that this action should apply to contracts in general. Okay, so there are contracts and then contracts belonging to whoever. And we're going to go here to actions and tell it. Because notice here, look, actions can be things like setting a contact. We can link a contact to a document with one of these actions, which we'll see how to execute later. We can make it so that when this action is executed, the document is moved to another workspace, to another folder. For example, let's imagine that upon approval, it needs to be sent to a folder that belongs to someone else. We can set up one of those actions so that by simply hitting play on that action, the document is automatically moved, so we don't have to drag it. The action is there for that purpose. We can also set who is the owner, the proprietor of the document. When someone is the owner of the document, we can specify that they can perform certain actions that someone who isn't the owner cannot do. Create set tags. This creation feature is also great because notice we can make it so a product is created from a document. This document could be a technical specification sheet for a product. And we can have it automatically create a product following a product template, an Odoo product. So that this document is attached as an attachment to the product, a document that when we click the action to approve the document, that's what we've called it, but it could be create product. A product is created according to these requirements. That the document signature is required, or that an invoice is created, whatever we want from here. What we're going to do is change the label. We'll tell it in the action to add a label, no, to replace it. Because if it already has a label, it should replace it. So we'll tell it that within approvals, it should replace it with validated. Surely in this case, I'm imagining that it will have the to review label. And now if we go here to actions, we also have the one we've just created to approve a document. But anyway, now we're going to go to documents and we're going to approve it in this document. Imagine that here I have the to review category. So what did we have to approve? We've just created approve a document. So from to review, if I click on approve a document, it changes to validated. But anyway, this is probably it. And now from here I can filter, I can say, hey, look, I only want to see the ones that are validated and they appear like this. Another very interesting feature is sharing a document, just like in OneDrive or other document managers. You can share this file, then delete it from sharing, and the link is copied to the clipboard. And now, with this URL, I could send it to anyone. It's been copied to my clipboard. Here it is. I could also send it to anyone. They would open it, and the document would automatically download for them. Also, later on in the settings, we have shared times and email addresses, and here we can see the links we've shared and delete them if we no longer want them to be available, or we can also view them from here. Notice here we have a folder shared, or rather a workspace. And by the way, something else that's really important and amazing about Odoo is that when you share a link for downloading, but also with permission to upload, it gives you the option to upload via email. And here you can set, for example, contracts as an alias or accounting or whatever we want, like uploads, for instance, so that any users who send their documents to us by email will have them automatically uploaded to the workspace associated with the link we're generating to share. Let's take a look inside it because I'd also like you to see how it appears visually. This is a shared workspace. When people enter here, they will see documents if you already have them uploaded without needing to log in with a username and password. And besides being able to view and download whatever you grant permission for, you can also allow people to upload documents here only, with this link. Well, all these things we've seen can also be done from the Odoo app or from a mobile device on the web page of our intranet. And now let's look at an example of how it's done. So in this video, we're seeing how, in response to a request for documentation, we can upload a document from a mobile device. We can even take a photo. If, for example, a photo of an ID is requested, the user can do it directly from their phone. Do you want to improve your company's efficiency? Well, with Odoo and without a guide, you can achieve it. Contact us and schedule a no-obligation audit and take advantage of consulting, implementation, and a support program.